Totally Rad peeps. Right now we're going to be showing you how to use Yin Yang, Big Blue, and Green with Envy, all essential parts of the Totally Rad action mix. These are somewhat confusing for some people because they work in a counterintuitive way, really, but we're going to show you how to get the most out of them using a couple examples, and hopefully at the end of all that you'll be master of these tools. So we're going to start by reworking this image right here. This image's obvious flaw is that the foreground is way too dark and the background is a little too light, and what we're going to do is try to equalize those tones to draw your eye towards the subject where it should be, and also lend a sense of drama to the sky and texture to the foreground. Sounds really complicated, but we can accomplish all of that by running Yin Yang, and that's going to give us two layers, one for lightening and one for darkening. And all you really need to do to activate these is to take a white brush and paint into the photo in the areas that you want to affect. So click Yang, make sure you have the brush tool selected, that the mode is set to normal, opacity is at 100, let's set the flow to, let's say, 25, and then go down here and make sure that you have your foreground and background colors set to white and black. One quick way to reset those is to hit D and then X, which is going to reset the palette colors and then flip them so that white and black are the foreground color. So first things first, go ahead and make sure you have Yang selected, and then we're going to start just painting over the areas that we want to lighten up. Basically starting with the faces of our couple here and working our way down. Going to hit the grass over here, trying to basically shed some light into the areas of the photo that ended up being underexposed because of the compromises we had to make at exposure time. Almost the same as adding fill light, but gives you a little bit more flexibility over exactly where it goes. You can also look right here and see in the layer mask what areas we've affected in the photo, and that basically looks like everything but the sky, which is exactly what we want. You can also use the Yin layer to darken up areas that you think could be a little darker. In this case, we're just going to kind of hit the sky and the clouds, try to bring a little more drama into the photo by darkening those up. One other thing you can do is actually run Yin Yang twice. If you don't get a strong enough effect the first time, then just run it again. And in this case, I actually want to lighten things up a little more, so I'm going to take this new Yang layer that has a fresh black mask, so it hasn't been applied anywhere, and I'm going to go over some of these areas again. Almost the whole thing, actually. Grass down here, hit these hills and that, and I'm actually going to hit the corner there because that's heavier than I wanted. So, got all of that, and then I can actually use this to darken down just the edges of the clouds right there again as well. And just with a couple minutes worth of work, if that, we've gone from something that basically looks like a straight out of camera snapshot to something that has a lot of life and to something that directs the eye where you want it to be in the photo. Now, next thing we want to do is make that grass even a little greener. This was shot on the north shore of Maui, and for those of you who've been there, the landscape is lush, beautiful, and delicious, and just so full of color and life. Green with Envy works exactly the same way as Yin Yang in that you'll run the action, and you're going to get a black layer mask where you can go and basically paint with a white brush into it to activate the action on the areas of the photo you want to use it on. All I'm doing right here is just clicking and dragging over the areas I want to green up, and as you can see, the layer mask is reflecting those changes, and as I click that on and off, you can see how much lush and beautiful everything looks already. Big Blue is sort of the same action for the sky, and what Big Blue is going to do is darken and richen blues in your photo, lending a sense of drama to your skies. Now, for Big Blue, we recommend that you use the gradient tool because that's an easy way to get a smooth transition from white to black, which is what you want. You want white in your layer mask up here where you want the action to apply, and black down here on the land and your subjects where you don't want it to apply. So select the gradient tool. You can hit G as a shortcut to do that. Make sure you have white and black as the foreground color, and make sure that up here your gradient looks basically like that, left to right, white to black. You have all these other funny options here, but you don't want any of those. You just want the basic default gradient. So you're going to click a little bit above the horizon and drag towards the horizon, roughly perpendicular to it, and release, and you'll get instantaneously rich, beautifully colored skies. And the only finishing step you're going to have to do with that sometimes is to withhold the action from your subject by painting over them with a black brush. So this is where the X key that I mentioned is going to come in handy. hit B to get your brush tool, hit X to flip the colors, and then just paint black over your subjects right there so that they're not getting that pinky orange skin tone from being oversaturated. You can also refine that mask a little with a white brush here, just kind of working back and forth like that, and voila! A couple minutes, we've gone from dull and underexposed to vibrant and full of life with texture and dramatic clouds and all of that. So let me show you another example of kind of an off-the-wall way to use this action, and that is to bring out texture and detail by sort of micro-dodging and burning areas of the photo to selectively lighten highlights and darken shadows, as opposed to the more traditional use of dodging and burning, which is to redirect your eye to the area of the photo you want, typically by lightening the subject and darkening the background. You can, now that we have the flexibility offered by digital tools, use that to go even a little farther. And looking at the dress in this photo, if we want that to really shine and we really want that to have a lot of texture and a lot of snap to it, one of the ways we can accomplish that is by lightening up the highlights or dodging them out using yang and darkening the shadows using yin. So, watch what happens here. We take yang as our layer right here, grab a brush, set the flow even a little lower right here, just start painting. That's even a little too much. Set the flow really low, and then just start painting over the highlights in the photo. A lot easier to do if you have a tablet, but if you don't, it can still be done with the mouse. The tablet's going to give you a little more control though. And just start reworking those highlights. Rework all these little areas in the photo. Basically just going through where you see a highlight and lightening it up even a little bit more. I usually start by going over the whole photo this way. One of the funny things about this technique in general is that you're going to have a hard time seeing any effect at all until you go back and click the layer on and off that you've just been working on and see just what a dramatic difference that's made in bringing out that sense of specular light and shininess to the photo. The next step is going to be to go ahead and click on the yin layer and do the same thing you've done for the highlights for the shadows. Go over those with yin and darken them up a little bit more. Basically, anything right next to a highlight you're going to want to hit. And what this is going to do is further accentuate that sense of dimension that we've created by basically increasing the contrast between the highlights and the shadows in the photo. How far you go into it is really up to you. You can go totally crazy and be really detailed, or you can just hit sort of the broad areas of highlight and shadow tone. Entirely up to you. Once again, that doesn't look like we've done a whole lot. It just looks shiny the way it's supposed to. But if you click that on and off and see the huge difference in the amount of texture and dimension we've added in a very subtle way, the result is really striking. And this is a technique that you can use on any kind of fabric or folds of fabric, and it actually even works in creating a glow on skin. If you want to know how to get really radiant, glowy skin, yin yang can actually also be used to do the same thing by basically painting over areas where you want highlights and darkening up shadows. So in this case, we know that we want to highlight along the arm right here, and probably along the neck and the cheek, and also on the legs right here. So we can use yang to lighten those up, drawing a highlight just like that, just kind of following the contours of what's already there in the photo, to draw a little bit more attention to the highlights, strengthen them, and overall bring out a little bit more of the light that we had there when we shot this. Do the same thing for the legs here. Can do a whole lot to shape bodies just by using these tools to draw highlights and shadows and strengthen the shapes that are already existent within the photo. Going to do the opposite with yin. Go through and hit some of the outsides of the legs there, and also hit the arms a little bit like that, the sides of the neck right there, and strengthen up that shadow along the side of the chin. Hit that and that. So while this may not be the fastest technique in the world, it is something that, for photos that can benefit from it, really add a little something. I do this for all pretty much of the work that I've been doing lately, and I really think it adds something special to that sense of glowiness to the skin. That's what we ended up with, and that's what we started with. Zooming out a little bit. Pretty cool, huh? So, that is just about it for this installment. Hope to see you guys next time, where we show you a little bit more about how to use the Totally Rad Action Mix. Later.